Hello everyone, big warm welcome from me. It's Carol at Oak House Journals, and as you can see I've got my bits and bobs in front of me for doing assignment number 43 in Margarete Miller's Collage Weekly Planner 2023 challenge. So the prompts for this week are something with wheels. Well, I've gone with this lovely vintage looking wooden wagon. Just love this image, so I thought this would work very well on my piece this week. Splashes and splotches is the second prompt. Now this was a scrap of paper that I had just to use the reverse of, actually, to take notes, and I suddenly remembered it and thought this would be perfect. The reason I've chosen this is because I've got two circles on it which will mimic the wheels. It's in brown tones which go with the little cart itself, and it's also got these orangey brown tones or splotches down here, and I thought they would work quite well, particularly as there's an orange splotch underneath this wheel here. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to work that onto my piece this week. Ideally I'd probably like to get something like that, but I think the whole thing is going to be too wide, so I'll have to have a play with that. So that's what I've got to hit the prompt for splashes and splotches. The next prompt, prompt number 3, is a piece of jewellery. Well, I've got this piece of jewellery here. Now the chain is broken, it's quite a delicate chain. I can't get the chain repaired, so I've had it to one side, and I actually thought that I could use it on my piece today with it being so fine and delicate. And I've also lifted out these other pieces of Halloween ephemera, or charms rather, and I'm going to use one of these on my piece today. Now ideally I would love to use this bat, but it's a little bit too dimensionalized and it stands too proud on the page, so I'm not going to use that one. Similarly, I'm thinking that this one will be the same. This is a spider, as you can see. It's got two little black gems for the eyes, but again this is quite dimensionalized. If I turn it sideways, maybe you can just see, so it's quite dimensionalized where its body is, because that's half a bead. So I think that one and the bat are no good. I've got this skeleton which is very flat, that would definitely work, so I might be using that one. And I've also got this pumpkin. Now this again is quite dimensionalized. If I turn it sideways, again you can see, but I might get away with using that one. So either of these two I'll be using on my piece today, and threading through some of the chain through the top loops. Any vegetable? Well, the cart here already has got a vegetable in it. It's got a pumpkin, but I went ahead and I printed out a few more, because what I thought I could do is absolutely fill that cart with pumpkins. So I'm going to fussy cut these out and pop them inside my cart. The 5th prompt is ledger paper. I've lifted out 2 for this one. I've lifted out this gorgeous sheet of German ledger paper, so that's a possibility. The other thing is, or the other thing that I've lifted out, a single sheet of this beautiful paper, and I thought I could use that. Now it does have a date at the top, December 1911, as you can see, but because of the configuration of the lines, I think this is not a calendar page or a diary page. I actually think this is a piece of ledger paper, and it's a perfect size. If I put it on my piece here, it's an absolutely perfect size, because all I need to do is trim down here a centimetre in or to the left of this blue line, and it fits immediately inside my border. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to trim this larger piece of German ledger paper down so that it fits inside my working border. And I'm also going to go ahead and fussy cut out some of these pumpkins, getting them ready to use on my page. So I'm going to go away and I'm going to do that, and I will be back in a minute or two when that's done. As you can see, I've cut out this portion from the ledger paper, so I'm just going to pop that to one side. This is the portion that I cut out, and this fits perfectly inside the 1 centimetre border that I've created on my page, and I've left it so that there is a date up in that top corner. So that's what that looks like. I've also trimmed this one down the left hand margin, so this one also fits in like that. I've made a decision which one of these two pieces I'm going to use, but I thought I would just show you and tell you why I've made the decision for using this piece. So if I put this back in place like that, this is obviously my image, and this is the splotched piece of paper that I'm going to use. Now I will trim this down to trim away some of the width on the left hand side. So I'm just going to move it out slightly. I will leave a little bit of a border on this left hand side, and this is the photograph that I'm going to use. And if I trim this down, then I can get more of these splotches in, and I can also get that, and I can get a little bit of a border down there. Now that looks very busy, doesn't it? But if I replace this piece with this piece, just very quickly like that, it would look very plain, because there isn't very much more to add onto here other than the little pieces that I've cut out and the piece of jewellery and the stamping. So that does actually sound a lot, saying that I'm going to add 3 extra pieces, but really they're all quite small pieces, and I'm thinking a lot of these bits will be actually on here. So I'm choosing to go and work with this for my background, and I'm going to have that on there. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it away, and I'm going to trim right across there, and I'm going to trim away some of this. So let me just do that. As you saw, I've trimmed down the left hand side across the top. I also trimmed a little bit off this side just to level it up, and a tiny little portion off the bottom. So I probably will have that tucked in there, something like that. I want to keep that date up there. I've got a little bit of this as a border on my left hand side. Probably will take this up higher and maybe drop that down there like that, just so that it looks a little bit more central. And my head is automatically wondering whether or not to trim away this border on here, but I'll leave that for the time being. And with these little pieces, what I thought I could do is just break up this bottom portion of the photograph by having these tucked down here somehow. Now, I haven't thought how I'm going to arrange these, but I was thinking that if I did something like that, that might be quite nice. Maybe tuck another piece down in there. So it kind of brings it down a little bit, makes it more interesting. So maybe something along those lines. Might be a bit too much having that one in there. So I need to have a little bit of play with how I want those to go. And as you can see here, I've cut a long piece. So I was thinking I would put a few more in the little wagon, maybe tuck a tiny one up in here. That's too small, so let me grab one of those. Yeah, I'm liking that better, having a bigger one in there. Maybe something like that. I've cut it straight across the bottom so that it looks like it's tucked in the little wagon. And I've got this piece here, and I've got a little bit of vegetation or straw there, and I've left that because I thought that I could take it so that it goes off the picture on this left hand side. So that's what I was thinking about, filling up my little wagon, adding some down here and having something like that. What is immediately coming to mind is I'm not liking this white section down here, so I will trim off this piece along the bottom, probably about from there, which means I can drop this down a bit more like that. And let's have a look at the jewellery pieces. This one, the skeleton, I could have on there like that. Now if I put that there, then I will trim away that white border because I'm not liking it. And the more I'm looking at this picture here, the more I'm thinking about trimming away the border. I'm not liking that there. There is a weather vane in the background here, and I could have him on there like that. None of that is working for me, especially if I want to get in the chain. So what is screaming to me is the handle on the little wooden wagon. It's not tall enough for me to have my skeleton on there, which is a shame. Even if I remove these extra pumpkins that I've put in there, it's not going to work. But what might work is this one, because this one is quite small. And if I put it on the chain, it could maybe just hang above. I could put this in just in amongst the pumpkins, but I'm not liking that. I'm wondering if I could hang it from the top there. That would actually work because it's coming down and joining the other pumpkins down here. So that could work. I'm not particularly liking it, but it could work. Let me just put a piece of the chain there. This is very, very fine chain, so it's absolutely ideal for this. So let's just have a look if I just drape that on here. Such a shame that handle isn't taller. Let's see if I can, sorry, I should get my tweezers out. Let's just see what it looks like if I just kind of put it at an angle up there. I have to get the chain in somehow, so I could put a tiny little bit of the chain just on there like that. Maybe snip it off there, have that almost so that it's dangling, and then my piece of jewellery would be the chain rather than this charm I've got here. So I think that's what I'm going to do there, everybody, is I'm going to trim across this splattered bit there. I am going to glue these pieces in place, these additional pumpkins, and yep, I'm going to trim away the white border on that wagon image. So let me get that done. I don't want too much of this white showing here or here, and I do want a border here showing some of the ledger paper from behind. And I'm just checking my backgrounds as well to see if there's any little pieces that are going to detract. I'm liking that I've got 1955 down there, and I'm liking that it's lined up with this pink line. Just bringing in my pieces of additional pumpkins. So I was thinking something like that. I want to place these so that it softens this corner down here. Let's have a look at these. Now this one I definitely did want on this corner here on the wagon. This one I thought I could have here. This one maybe tucked over this piece and under that. And I'm liking how that's looking, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue behind this bit here. I've got a few other pieces up here, so I was wondering if I could maybe tuck another one of these up here somewhere. Let's have a look like that. Let's have a look at that one going in there. This one I'm thinking I'll have in there like that. Just going to put a bit of glue behind this one. My jewellery pieces are going to be the last pieces that I can put in place, because this particularly, this charm here is going to need something like glossy accents to glue it in place, and then I'm going to have to leave it whilst the glossy accents dries, and the same with the chain. When I went to go and get my glossy accents, I spotted these Tim Holtz snippets. I think they're observatory curator, sorry, snippet labels, and this one was on the front of the packet, or to the forefront of the packet, and I think I'm going to pop it in there like that, just to add a little bit more interest down in this bottom corner. This area is still giving me some concern, as is that area, but I need to get my stamping in. What I thought I could do, I like that up there, but that's the area where I think my stamping is going to need to go. So have it partially on the image, that little piece of vegetation going across the corner, and use this to frame that. So I'm just going to glue those in place. For my stamping, I thought I would use a date stamp, and obviously I've got to use this distress ink called Carved Pumpkin. I've stamped a couple of date stamps that I'm happy with, so I'm going to choose one of these. I'm leaning towards perhaps that one, I think, something like that, or that's what the other one looks like. And I think I'm leaning towards that one, even though I like the width of this one. I can't tear this particular one so that it's any smaller. But what I do need to do up here is some more splatters, because if I put that in place like that, which is where I'm thinking of having it, I've still got that white edge up there, and it's exactly the same, obviously, if I put this one in place like that. So I've lifted out this stamp, which is ink splats. It's a visible image one, and I think I did these splatters here with this, but certainly not the circles. I think I just was cleaning off a top or something, but I thought I could do some of these ink splats in that corner, and I've lifted out some Distress Oxide Vintage Photo. And I'm doing this half on, half off the wagon image, half on, half off the splatters, just to break up my edges a little bit. I'm going to put one of those stamps on top of the other, just gives me a little bit more interest in the layering. And now to chop a piece of chain. So let's put those to one side. I've got a little chopping board here and some wire clippers. Don't actually want much, but I do want a little bit. Let's put that to one side. Bring in my pumpkin. That's where I'd like it to go. I'm going to thread a little bit of chain through it and then just gently angle it like that. Okay, so I think I need to just go ahead and try and get some glue on here. There we go, everybody. That's my finished piece for this week. It was very tricky trying to glue that chain down onto my image here, because glossy accents will leave a glossy residue anywhere that is exposed. So I didn't want that particularly showing too much outside of where I was trying to glue the chain down. And my charm is in place as well. I'm not going to touch this too much because it's still drying. What I'm going to do is take some photographs now so that you can see them at the end, and then I'm going to set this aside to dry for a good 24 hours so that I know that that particular charm and the chain is well and truly stuck down. But let me quickly go through the prompts, as I always do with you. Something with wheels. Well, this was my vintage style wooden wagon here. Splashes or splotches, well, that was my piece of paper here with some splashes and splotches on, and I put a few more on here and down at the bottom here. A piece of jewellery, well, only a tiny piece, and that was this little bit of chain here, trying to look like it's holding that Halloween pumpkin charm in place. Any vegetable, well, there was already a pumpkin on my trolley here, but as you know, I added a good few more. I added all this section here and these three here, and then all of these down at the bottom. Ledger paper, well, this was my vintage German ledger paper in the background here, and bonus, a stamping in non-black ink. Well, I went with the date or official date for Halloween, which is the 31st of October 23. So I hope you enjoyed seeing that one come together. Not particularly a difficult one to do, although a little bit fiddly I found, especially round here, but definitely one I enjoyed doing. So thank you so much for joining me, everybody. And yeah, this was number 43. We've only got to 52 to do, so definitely not many more left in this challenge. So I hope you'll join me for the last few, and if you can't join me for those, then certainly please do join me next week and see how I get on. Until then, have a great week, everybody. Keep smiling, take care, bye bye now.